And your comments there made me bring up a paragraph from one of your stories where Transportation Secretary was talking about the hiring supercharge that he had been talking about earlier in the year. As you noted earlier in this conversation, the ongoing shortage and pressure of and on air traffic controllers has been one of the key storylines in American aviation this year. Do you think that this shutdown will diminish the number of people who apply for these jobs? For folks who were thinking about it and they're watching what's going on, do you think we'll still see them working to become air traffic controllers?
So I do. I think the FAA is afraid of that. I think Sean Duffy, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, said as much when he was on Fox News over the weekend. He said, what happens is there's a pipeline, right? So you have kind of cadets that are in the pipeline. They have to go to the academy at Oklahoma City. Then they get assigned to an air traffic control facility somewhere else in the country. They're being trained. The instructors right now are not being paid. And they, from what I've heard, I also have talked to a lot of the trainees, the training staff, and they don't feel like they're paid enough anyway, and now they're not being paid. But what happens is that the cadets are getting, they get a stipend, and that's running out in like another week. And even when they start, like air traffic controllers, when they're seasoned, they can make, a good six-figure income. But when they start, they're just like any other entry-level employee, not being paid anywhere near what the experienced top-level people are. And Sean Duffy said, people are going to wash out of the system, like that. They've already invested getting them to a certain part in the pipeline. It takes like 3 or 4 years to train an air traffic controller until they're certified. And if partway through that pipeline we're pulling the plug, or they're pulling their own plug because they're like, oh my God, and of course they're talking to people who remember the last shutdown. People have muscle memory, and so they're hearing their colleagues say, oh my gosh, this is like last time, and I had to sell my car, or I had to, and I think there's a lot of people rethinking their choices. It's just not a good situation at all if you're trying to attract talent. And air traffic controllers, there's a very specific type of person that can be an air traffic controller. I've heard people say it's like a short order cook mentality. Things are flying at you all the time, and you just have to stay calm and keep things moving. One air traffic controller, a very senior guy, told me that it's gamers, right? People who can just kind of have a lot of stuff happening on the screen, and they kind of keep either the calm duck on the surface that just keeps paddling. That is not, that is a lot of people who start the process to become an air traffic controller wash out. They wash out because the FAA washes them out because they don't have the right probably temperament. You have to, it's an incredibly stressful job. And to be able to do it for 10 hours at a time and then expect to do it without pay, I think is, is huge, just huge stress on top of an already stressful job.
You took the words out of my mouth. It is an incredibly stressful job, a very important job, and one that has been made 10 times, if not 20 times, harder due to the ongoing government shutdown. Suzanne, we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything else you want the Forbes audience to know about how the shutdown is affecting air traffic controllers and air travel in the United States?
I would just tell people, if you are traveling, definitely get to the airport early, like way earlier than you were planning on it. Be prepared for disruption, because it's either going to happen, I think, on the TSA side, where you're having you're encountering a longer line in the airport, or your flight might be delayed. Fly early in the morning if you possibly can. Even in good times, like on a clear blue sky day, a morning flight is a lot less likely to be disrupted, to be delayed or canceled. Those things tend to, ramp up as the day goes on. So, give yourself the best odds for, having a clean kind of journey. And if you can, maybe think about delaying your trip until, maybe even a week. Maybe it'll be over by then. I think a lot of people are making those kinds of calculations, and I think it's probably not uh, unwise. I mean, you could be looking at spending half a day or an entire day at an airport.
Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us and giving us this advice. Thank you for your coverage. For folks who want ongoing updates, should they follow you on Forbes? Should they follow you on social? Where should they find you?
Sure, they can follow me at Forbes.
Follow Suzanne at Forbes. Suzanne, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.